Prior to the release of the Pentagon Papers, would you please give us a sense of what you called President Johnson's passion about opening up all archival material, including classified, to the public, and what steps did he take to make that happen?
Well, the first thing is, right after I became director of the library, which was a year before the library was opened, he made it clear that he wanted to open everything as quickly as possible. After the library was open, he was very concerned that we get to the business quickly of opening all papers. The question of classified material didn't come into it quite at that time, but he just wanted the point made that he wanted everything open as quickly as possible. And when he learned that the general rule was that archivists followed was that it took about 5 years to open the first batch of material, he said, let's cut that in half. But his concern over classified material came about a little bit earlier than that, to me at any rate, because when I was working with him, among others, on The Vantage Point, on his memoirs, he made it very, very clear that he wanted everything that could be possibly opened, used in that book, because he had the feeling, right or wrong, that when everything was made available and it was all laid out on Vietnam, history was going to understand the reasons for the critical decisions that were made. So that was his feeling.
Did President Johnson know about the Pentagon Papers prior to their release by Ellsberg?
So far as I know, he did not, but he did take some steps during that time on other things. For instance, the Tuesday lunch notes that are very, very specifically Vietnam and quite heavily classified, he wanted those released. I don't think that had anything at all to do with the Pentagon Papers, because I don't think he knew about them at that time. To the best of my knowledge, he did not.
What was President Johnson's reaction to the release of the Pentagon Papers?
I don't have any sense of how he felt about their release. He did. I'm quite aware of my first involvement in it, and that was when he called me. He was at his ranch, and I was at in my office in the library, and he called me to talk about his concern about the absence of any papers from the LBJ library in the release. His point was that so far as his administration was concerned, the papers that were available from the Pentagon only told part of the story. And to have the whole story told, it meant that we should immediately make available all of the papers relating to Vietnam that were in the library. That was the substance of his reaction, and then it went on from there.
Would you please walk us through the steps that were taken by you, National Security Advisor Walt Rostow, Presidential Aide Tom Johnson, and President Johnson to work with Richard Nixon on opening up all records?
As I said, President Johnson called me, told me that he felt that the story was incomplete on just the papers released from the Pentagon, that he wanted the whole story out. That meant that we should be able to release the papers on Vietnam in the library. He told me that he had asked Walt Rostow to prepare a rationale that he could take to President Nixon that would persuade President Nixon to send down a team to the LBJ library and declassify all of the papers on Vietnam that could possibly be declassified and open them. He asked me if I would give Walt Rostow all of the help that I could. That means the archival staff and I went to work and prepared the information that Walt needed, because I had talked to him obviously about this. I think that went on for probably a week of intense research into the Vietnam material. Walt and I talked about it. Walt's conviction, which I shared, was that there was no reason legally why this could be done, should be done, but that the greatest tool President Johnson had to present to President Nixon was his own passionate feeling that these papers should be made available. Also, President Nixon had just a short while before indicated his own feeling that he wanted to a much more liberal attitude toward declassification during his administration. So Walt's idea was that the president should seize on that and exploit it, but at the same time present his own passionate feeling about it to President Johnson. I agreed with that. So Walt sent a letter, a memo to the president reflecting that and expressing it as both of our attitudes. Shortly after that, I went to, one Saturday night, I was at dinner at the LBJ Ranch. This was a week before President Johnson died. He took me aside, told me that he had read the memo and that he saw the reason behind it, and he agreed with it. And as soon as President Nixon had gone through his second inaugural, which was pending, he was going to go to Washington and take the matter up with President Nixon. That was the last time I saw President Johnson. 1 week after that dinner, President Nixon went through his second inaugural. 2 days later, President Johnson died. Mrs. Johnson and her daughters took President Johnson's body to Washington. Tom Johnson went along with them. While he was there, Tom Johnson talked to President Nixon and told him what President Johnson had planned to do. A few days after that, I got a call from Bob Haldeman in President Nixon's office, telling me that President Nixon was quite intrigued with this idea, and would I come to Washington and talk to Haldeman about it. So I went. I met with Mr. Haldeman in his office. He told me that President Nixon really wanted to follow through on this, but he did not believe that it could be done with just one library. He felt that if it was going to be done at all, it should be done with all the presidential libraries who had Vietnam Papers. So Haldeman called into his office an aide. His name was David Young, and explained the whole thing to him, and gave to David Young the assignment of visiting all the presidential libraries to see how this could be executed. I came back to Austin, convinced that it was what President Johnson wanted to have done was on the road, but I heard nothing about it for a long time. I was getting very, very apprehensive and curious. Then I read one day in the Washington Post a story that the Watergate plumbers had met in an office of an aide named David Young to plan their adventures, and that they were all under suspicion of some kind, some investigation. So that was really the end of the story. I heard nothing more about it ever. There's a footnote to it, but that really was where the story ended. The footnote was that about a year later, maybe longer than that, I was at a conference at Hofstra University on Long Island. Bob Haldeman was also there. There were about, I think, no more than 20 people in that conference. In the course of it, because of the subject matter, it was appropriate for me to tell this story. As I told it, I watched Bob Haldeman, who nodded as I was relating the story, so that I knew that he agreed with it, but I did not get a chance to talk to him afterward to find out anything about David Young or any of the follow-up at all. So that's step by step the story of our involvement.
What do you think President Johnson would think about the release of all the papers 40 years after the first leak?
What the hell took so long?
Daniel Ellsberg didn't release papers about negotiations to end the Vietnam War. What was your reaction to that omission? What do you think was President Johnson's reaction to that omission?
President Johnson didn't refer to it specifically, but in my mind, I am convinced that it was the omission of that subject, of those efforts, that were in his mind when he said this story was not complete. I think that he clearly felt that any story that did not include all of the efforts that had been made to end the war was an incomplete story. So he didn't say that to me, but I'm sure that's one of the reasons that, for his wanting to get the papers open.